In the last video, we were looking at factoring when we just had something like x squared plus some number times x plus some other number. We looked at factoring something like that. Now we're going to be looking at factoring something that has a number in front of x squared. That's what this lesson is about. So something that might look like that. Now we can do guess and check for this. Unlike the last lesson, guess and check is not the easiest way to do it. For the last lesson, if you know what's going on in the last lesson, guess and check is fairly easy, but it's not so easy in this one. We'll go ahead and give it a try, but there's some other methods that are going to work a little bit better. So we need first times first to equal 3x squared. So we got to think of all the different ways that we could get first times first to equal 3x squared. Luckily for us, 3 is prime. There's only one way that you can multiply numbers to get 3. It's 1 times 3. So that means one of them is going to have to be x, and one of them is going to have to be 3x. Now we look at negative 5. We also need, for the second of the set, we need two numbers that multiply to be negative 5. Again, luckily 5 is prime. There's only one way to multiply numbers to get 5. That's 1 times 5. So one of these blanks is going to have to be 5. One of them is going to have to be 1. And then we also need one of them to be positive and one of them to be negative, because we need them to multiply to be negative 5. And this is where the guess and check comes in. So we're literally going to make a guess, multiply it out, and see if it works. So let's try, for example, putting a positive 5 here and a negative 1 there. And let's FOIL this and see what happens. So first times first gives us 3x squared. And we shouldn't be surprised by that, because again, we picked numbers that would multiply to give 3x squared. But then we have negative x, and the inners gives us 15x, and then last times last, 5 times negative 1, gives negative 5. Again, we shouldn't be surprised by that one, because we picked numbers that would give us negative 5. What we're really concerned about here is when we combine like terms. The negative x plus 15x gives us 14x, which means the middle term here is 14x. It is not 2x squared, or negative 2x squared. We need it to be negative 2x squared. So we chose the wrong one. Now normally you would have to just keep guessing, try some other combination, and guess and guess and guess, and check and check and check. But I'm going to speed up the process here. I'm going to put in the correct ones. So what it should be here, it should be x plus 1, and then 3x minus 5. Now we'll go ahead and check this just to be sure. First times first gives 3x squared. Again, that shouldn't be a surprise. We chose numbers that would make that happen. X times negative 5 gives negative 5x. 1 times 3x gives 3x. And then the last one, we shouldn't be surprised about this one again. We chose numbers that would give us negative 5 when we multiplied that. So what we're really concerned about is combining like terms, these center two. Negative 5x plus 3x is negative 2x. Copy down the rest. And when you look at this, you see it is the same as the original with the negative 2x in the middle. So that means that these two binomials, that is the answer. That is the correct factorization. Now all this guessing and checking can get pretty tedious and obnoxious, so we've got some better methods. One of them is very similar to what we did. Actually, it's the exact reverse of what we did when we were multiplying binomials. So this alternative to FOIL. Instead of having numbers that we're going to put up here, like say x and 5, instead of doing that, we're going to start inside the box and then work our way out to the numbers that will be on the top and the left. So we start with 2x squared, put that in the top left box. Negative 9 goes in the bottom right box. The middle term goes in the circle. That's what we have to combine like terms to get. And then what we want to look for is two numbers that will add to be 3, but instead of multiplying to be negative 9, we need them to multiply to be whatever the first number times the last number is. So this is the difference between this type of factoring and in the last lesson. So when we're looking for the two numbers, we need them to multiply to be whatever it is what we get when we do 2 times negative 9, which in this case is negative 18. So we need the numbers to multiply to be negative 18, and then add to be 3. So let's look at the factors here. So we could do 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. Can't divide by 4, can't divide by 5, and that brings us back to 6. 6. So that's all the factor pairs. One of these factor pairs we could combine in some way by making the numbers positive or negative to get a positive 3. And that's going to be if we do negative 3 and 6. So negative 3 and 6 will multiply to be negative 18, and they will add to be 3. So those are the numbers that go in these two spots. We throw an X on them. And remember, it doesn't matter which box you put them in, so I could have put the negative 3x in the bottom left box, and I could have put the 6x in the top right box. That's just fine. You'll end up with the same answer. All right. Then what we're going to do is we're going to factor out from each column in each row. We're going to factor out the greatest common factor. So let's start with the left column. We're going to factor out from that column going up. So 2 and 6 have a common factor. It's 2. Both of those numbers can be divided by 2. Also, x, we can pull out an x. So we've got x squared on the top one and x on the bottom one. Then on the right column, we factor this out. Now these are both negative numbers, so we can factor out a negative. And they're both divisible by 3, so we can factor out a 3. Now let's go to the top row. So we're going to factor out this way. The only common factor between those two is x. So we can't pull out a number, or if you want to think about it as pulling out a 1, 1 is a common factor between 2 and 3. But we can't pull out a 2 or a 3 because 2 is not divisible by 3 and 3 is not divisible by 2, so we couldn't do either of those. On the bottom row, well, both 6 and 9 are divisible by 3, so we can pull out a 3. And those are the two binomials. So we've got 2x minus 3 from the top, and then x plus 3 from the bottom. If you want to check your work, that's a good idea. You can take this set of two binomials and FOIL it, multiply it back out, make sure that you get the original trinomial. If you don't, that means you did something wrong somewhere. I won't take the time to do that though. Alright, the last method is x factor. So for x factor, we take the middle number, what we combine like terms to get, put it on the top of the x. Take the first number times the last number. Again, in this case, with this type of factoring, it's not just going to be the last number. It's the first number times the last number. So we need to do 6 times 15. That's 90. And then we need to look at factors of 90. There's all the factors. So then we need to look at a pair. One of the pairs in that list has got to add up to negative 19. And we can do that with negative 10 and negative 9. So that's the pair. Put those on the left and the right. And then we're going to set up our set of parentheses. I'll do that over on the right side. Now what we need to do with these parentheses is take the first number. Now this is a difference from the last type, the last lesson. We need to take that 6 and throw an x on it. Not x squared. We're going to get the x squared from multiplying these together. But we put a 6x in the first spot of both. Now you'll notice that 6x times 6x is 36x squared, not 6x squared. Don't worry, we're going to fix that in a minute. Okay, then we take the two numbers we found, negative 9 and negative 10, and fill them in. Now here comes another part that's different than the last lesson. If you remember in the last video I said that there was going to be another step in this video. Here's the other step. So we need to take those two binomials, 6x minus 9 and 6x minus 10, and we need to divide off the greatest common factor between the two in the binomial. And this factor is just going to disappear. We're just going to divide it off and get rid of it. We've introduced this extra factor and we need to get rid of it. So 6 and 9 are both divisible by 3. So that's going to give us 6x divided by 3 is 2. 9 divided by 3 is 3, so that's one of the factors. And then for 6x and negative 10, we can divide those both by 2. 6x by 2 is 3x. And then 10 by 2 is 5. And these are the two factors. Again, if you want to check your work, you can multiply that out, make sure you get back the original trinomial.